Okay, let's jump in. Today, we're going deep, and I mean really deep, into the corporate roadmap of a major global mining company.
hmm
We've got their 2024 integrated report right here, and it's a fascinating document.
It really is. It's this incredible map of a company trying to manage this massive tension, right?
Exactly. On one hand, you have this aggressive expansion. They're chasing the critical minerals we all need for the energy transition.
And on the other, you have this profound weight of accountability, environmental, social, all of it.
It's a real tightrope walk.
Mm.
So for you, our goal here is to get past the surface level numbers and really understand that tension. Are they building the mining company of the future, or are they still, stuck dealing with the ghosts of the past?
And that's all wrapped up in their 2030 vision. They want to be a trusted partner with a superior portfolio.
Right. And superior portfolio means billions in investment.
But trusted partner, that's where the ESG metrics come in. Success is now safety, it's sustainability, it's community trust. It's not just about tons out of the ground.
Okay, so let's start at the top. Business strategy. There was a big change in leadership.
Yeah, a really interesting one. The new CEO, Gustavo Pimenta, he wasn't an operations lifer. He came from the finance side of the company.
He was the VP of finance.
Exactly, an internal promotion. But what that signals is a shift. It tells you the board is thinking about governance, about capital efficiency, about managing risk.
So it's less about just digging, more and more about digging smarter and allocating that capital in the right places.
And where is that capital going? Straight into the energy transition. It's all about copper.
Copper is the big play.
It's the star of the show. You look at the flagship investment, the new Carajás project in Brazil. They're talking about $13 billion by 2030.
13 billion, and that's not just for their traditional iron ore.
No, a huge chunk of that is to seriously expand their copper operations.
Right.
They're locking in their supply for, the whole electrification push.
The numbers really back that up, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They did about 348,000 tons of copper in 2024.
Which is already a lot.
It is, but their goal is to get to around 700,000 tons by 2035. They're looking to basically double their output.
Wow, that's an aggressive growth curve.
It's a massive bet on critical minerals. But, and this is a big but, all this optimism has to be grounded in reality.
The 2024 financials.
Yep. The report is very clear. Net profit dropped. It dropped significantly.
How much are we talking?
It went from 8.1 billion down to 6.0 billion in just a year.
That's a huge dip, especially when you're planning these multi-billion investments. What drove that?
It was mostly about the price they were getting for iron ore. The global market just wasn't as strong, with the slowdown in China's property sector.
Right, which hits the demand for steel.
And that just ripples right through their entire balance sheet. But interestingly, their debt level stayed pretty stable.
So they were prepared for it.
It seems so. Their net debt is around 16.5 billion, which is right inside their target range of 10 to 20 billion. They've got this cushion.
So they're using this moment to trim the fat a bit,
Yeah.
optimize things?
That's what it looks like. They sold a stake in their Oman distribution center for $600 million. They're reviewing operations in Canada. It's classic portfolio management.
Prune the non-core assets to double down on the future.
And that future, as we said, depends entirely on managing their legacy. Which brings us to probably the most critical part of this report.
Safety.
And accountability.
Yeah. And you have to start with the hardest number in the entire report.
Fatality.
4 colleagues lost their lives in 2024. Their stated goal is 0. It just hangs over everything else. The work is nowhere near done.
That really grounds the entire conversation. So on the structural side, with the dams, they're making progress. They call it decharacterization.
Right. And just so you understand, these upstream dams are the riskiest type. They're built by stacking mining waste, or tailings, on top of older layers of waste.
Not the most stable design.
Not at all. So decharacterization just means taking them down completely, dismantling them.
And they've made progress there, a lot. Since 2019, they've gotten rid of 17 of these structures in Brazil. That's 57% of the total program. And they've spent about $2.1 billion to do it.
And there was one big milestone, the B3, B4 dam, that they actually finished ahead of schedule.
Yes, and the way they did it is fascinating. It really points to the future.
No, so?
They invested nearly $15 million in remote-controlled, unmanned equipment. So they literally took the human workers out of the most dangerous zone. Technology is a safety tool.
But I imagine the communities living downstream are less focused on the 17 that are gone and more on the ones that are still there.
Of course. And that pressure is completely justified. The report is upfront about it. There is still one dam, Fort Keeler III, that's at the highest risk level, emergency level 3.
What's the timeline on that one?
End of 2025?
Yeah.
That deadline is probably the single most important one in the whole company. The stakes are just incredibly high.
Let's zoom out a bit to overall worker safety. The main metric, the total recordable injury frequency rate, or TIIF, that looked pretty stable.
It was around 1.09, which, on its own looks okay. It suggests they're handling the day-to-day routine incidents. But you dig one layer deeper and the story changes. You look at the high-severity injuries, the really catastrophic, life-altering events.
N1 and N2 events, they call them.
Right, and those jumped. They went from 6 events in 2023 to 20 in 2024.
20. That's more than triple.
It's a huge, worrying increase. It completely undercuts the stability of that main TRI-IFR number.
That is incredibly concerning. But there's another number in here that, well, it seems to point in the opposite direction, the N3 events.
The N3s, yes. These are the high-potential non-injury events, the near misses.
And the number of reports for those just exploded.
It's staggering. I mean, listen to this. In 2019, they had 447 of these reports. In 2024, they had almost 300,000.
300,000. How is a massive increase in reported problems a good thing?
Because it signals a culture shift. Think about airline safety. You want pilots reporting every little thing, a sticky latch, a confusing checklist, not just when an engine fails.
So it means people aren't afraid to speak up.
Exactly. It suggests workers trust the system. They feel safe proactively flagging risks before someone gets hurt. It's actually one of the most positive signs in the whole report about their internal culture.
That is a fascinating piece of data. Okay, so from mitigating old risks, let's pivot to building the future. Let's talk decarbonization and the circular economy.
This is where they're trying to write a new story. And it starts with what they call waste to value.
Using their old tailings, the waste from the dams.
Yep, taking this massive environmental liability and turning it into a product. In 2024, they recovered 12.7 million metric tons of iron ore from that waste.
Oh, they're literally mining their own waste dumps.
They are. And the goal is to get that up to 30 million tons a year by 2030. If they do that, they've turned a huge problem into a brand new revenue stream.
They're also pushing hard on innovation for their customers,
Yeah.
right? With the iron ore briquettes.
This is a potential game changer for green steel. The briquettes let steelmakers seriously cut their carbon footprint.
And the market seems to be buying in.
It does. They've got a new partnership with Hidden Steel in Spain. And maybe even more importantly, the U.S. Department of Energy picked the technology for funding. That's a huge validation.
We're seeing this kind of thinking in their new projects, too. The blueprint for the new Apollo project is a great example.
It really is. The whole design is what they call minimally invasive mining. They've engineered it to completely eliminate wet processing.
Which means?
No more tailings dams, none. That one decision cuts new water use by 95% and carbon emissions by 50% compared to the old plan.
That feels like the blueprint for all mining in the future.
It has to be. And they're cleaning up their own house, too. They hit 100% renewable electricity in Brazil in 2023, 2 years early, and kept it going in 2024.
So the technical side is moving forward, but none of that matters if they don't have their social license to operate.
Which brings us to the immense cost of reparation.
The numbers are just monumental. Let's start with the Mariana or Fundão Dam failure.
The final agreement for that was signed and ratified in 2024. The total estimated value is $31.5 billion.
31.5 billion.
To put that in perspective, that is almost 4 times their net profit for this year. It's a generational financial commitment.
And for Brumadinho, that process is still moving.
It is. The agreement there is valued at $7 billion, and the report says they've executed about 75% of that plan. These numbers just show the staggering financial weight of these past failures.
Beyond paying for the past, they do have this forward-looking social ambition. What's that about?
It's pretty ambitious. They have a goal to help 500,000 people leave extreme poverty by 2030, and they're using a specific methodology to measure it.
The multidimensional poverty index, what does that actually mean?
It means they're looking beyond just income. It measures things like health, education, living standards. So it's not about handing out cash. It's about building infrastructure, improving healthcare access, a much more holistic approach.
That's the proactive side. But the report is also pretty transparent about risks in their supply chain.
It is, which is important. They've mapped specific human rights risks, child labor, forced labor in their supply chains across Brazil, Oman, China, Chile.
And they didn't find any confirmed cases in their own operations last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
But just mapping the risk shows you how complex this is. The responsibility doesn't stop at the mine gate. It extends globally to all their contractors and suppliers.
Right. And finally, on the community front, they seem to be formalizing their engagement with indigenous people.
Yes, that's a key shift. They completed a formal consultation protocol with the Kayapo people in Para. They're moving away from simple community investment and more towards a formal rights-based partnership.
So as we wrap this up, it really is a story of two companies in one, isn't it?
It's a perfect way to put it. You have this forward-looking company investing billions in a profitable, decarbonized future with critical metals and circularity.
But at the same time, they are still profoundly defined by the past. The massive reparation payments, the ongoing safety challenges, the tragic fact they didn't hit their zero fatality goal.
And it shows that ESG, environmental, social governance, isn't some soft, optional policy anymore. It's hard finance. The report even says top management compensation is now tied to hitting these ESG targets.
And the market is watching. When they do well on this stuff, they get rewarded.
Immediately. They got removed from 4 asset exclusion lists, which unlock something like $800 billion of assets under management that could potentially invest in them now.
So the social license is literally a key to unlock global capital.
It's the gatekeepers.
Hmm.
And you see it in their innovation, too. They've managed to turn that huge tailings liability into a valuable product. They sold 1.4 million tons of sustainable sand made from that waste last year.
So they're turning waste into a resource.
Exactly. And that shift leads to a final, really provocative thought for you to chew on. If a company can reliably and profitably transform massive amounts of historical waste into valuable products, does that fundamentally change how we should calculate environmental risk for the entire industry? Does a liability become an asset on the books? And how fast can that scale before the regulators even figure out how to categorize it?